So moving on to the next question, Paul, for yourself. Quite a broad area, but be very interested to hear your thoughts on the types of behaviors or activities vendors typically try to incentivize and how to determine the best fit incentive by both activity and partner type.
Well, that's a broad question, but as I say, good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for allowing me to be on this panel. It is a broad question. It's a broad challenge. It's very much down to what you're trying to achieve. There are so many different things you can do, and Balaji touched on a number of them then. I think one of the key things to think about with incentives are that there's primarily two camps. There's your strategic incentives and then tactical ones. We see many strategic incentives which form part of the economic model that you give to the partner, and it's an ongoing incentive. So it's a standard rebate that forms part of the business model and part of the economic model. And they're more targeted at the partner versus the individual, because those are the other aspects. When you start going to the tactical side of things, again, it's, what are you trying to drive? What are the behaviors you're trying to move? And who are you targeting? Again, are you targeting the company and what they do, or are you targeting the individual and the individual person? So, typical examples that, vendors always try and drive, it's always about the number. It's always about how do you drive revenue. The most common incentives that you'll see are, how do we sell more? The question you have to ask yourself when building one of these is, am I trying to look at it as a short-term initiative? So how do I sell more in the given period of the incentive? Or am I trying to change a behavior that'll have an ongoing effect? And that, when you look at that, you've got to look at your ROI and think about, if I'm going to do a short-term incentive, I want to drive revenue, how am I going to get the return on investment within the period versus a longer term, which says, if I do this now, what's it going to cost me versus the ongoing impact? But driving sales is one area. Competency is another area that is very common. How do I get the channel more skilled? As Balaji said, as we look more towards the UCaaS world and recurring revenue, quality, customer satisfaction, and retention become much more important. So how do you ensure that the customer experience being given by your partners ensures that they stay with your solution? So how do you empower them, provide them with the knowledge and expertise? And so, again, incentivizing them based on training taken. We ran a very successful campaign on training in Q4. We wanted to drive up the competency of a certain platform. So we actually incentivized our partners to take the training, and we actually ran a prize draw. It wasn't that you took the training, you got the reward. It was you took the training, you might win an iPad. We saw 123% growth in our training bookings in a quarter, just going out there to get trained. So again, it's awareness. Is there something I get at the end of it? Possibly that can drive people over. So sales, training, competencies. Are you looking at new customers? Are you looking at existing customers? Are you going competitive, as Balaji said? Are we going after somebody else? What is the behavior? It's all about the goal that you're trying to do. I thought it was interesting that Balaji said about GSIs and areas where you can't reward. There are countries where you can't reward as well. You've got to think about the legality of what you're trying to do. We as vendors can incentivize individuals at certain companies in certain countries, but there are countries where you can't incentivize. So you have to be very specific in your targeting as what you are offering and to who and what's appropriate for the market. But the non-financial one is coming up more and more now. And the other one that we see, or I've come across recently, was that the company didn't want to be incentivized, but they wanted us to do something for the environment, to do some sort of charitable donation, or they wanted for us to gift the investment to something which was a good cause, so an environmental cause. So when you're planning this, you've got to look at who you're targeting. And I think that drives very much the incentive you want to do. But as we said, people are driven by what they'll personally get. What do I get out of it? Companies are generally driven by what is in it for the company. How does it benefit the company? And that may be to their bottom line in terms of better margin, but it also may be in terms of how can we empower them to sell more. And that can be with more marketing funds, it can be with lab equipment, free equipment, those sort of aspects. But again, it comes back to what is your goal and who are you targeting? I think are the key things when you're thinking about what drives it. But there's no limit, I think, to the options of what you can do. I will comment at the start of this, we're going through our history of Kenneth, Balaji and myself, and we're sounding like a bunch of industry dinosaurs with 20+ years in experience. Yeah, it's really funny, but even the good old days of going into distribution, beer and pizzas and handing out gifts on the sales floor, it still works for the right product in the right market, right? So you can be as complex as you like, or you can get back to old school if you need to be. It's very much up to what you need to do and what behavior you need to drive.